about this last night for like the Knicks game, but like that Knicks game went like way left. Somebody had like
Hmm.
the best like tweet I seen about the game last night. It was like RJ Barrett was playing really really good. So of course for the rest of the game it was the Alfred Payton show. Alfred Payton sucks. Yeah.
Speaking of the Knicks, there was a game recently. What happened? How's it
Yeah,
going?
so the Big East tournament is something I've been to the Big East tournament like at least like 5 to 7 times since like 2009. Like I went the year like Kemba Walker did the jab step and shot the ball to win the Big East tournament against Pittsburgh, which broke my heart
Wait.
because I'm a Pitt Panther.
Hmm?
But the Big East tournament is going on, and Patrick Ewing, Knicks legend, great Georgetown legend, and Georgetown great. He's the coach of Georgetown right now, so he had a huge ass win over Villanova, like an upset win, because I think Villanova was like the number 2 seed in the tournament. So it was cool because after the game, he was like, "Yo, this is my house. This is my building, Madison Square Garden. That's my jersey in the rafters. Blah 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 blah." So I'm seeing all this stuff about like Patrick Ewing thing, and it was all positive stuff. And then apparently in like the post game press conference, like he came out of nowhere and he was, somebody needs. I gotta talk to Mr. Dolan, Jim Dolan, owner of Madison Square Garden, about like the security because they're asking me for like my like ID and stuff like that. And it's like, yo, like my number is up in the rafters. So, with the Knicks, it wasn't even like a private thing. He did it at like the post game press conference. So of course, it's the Knicks, it's low hanging fruit. Like anything you could associate with the Knicks, like here's the wild shit. Like it wasn't even at a Knicks game. It was at the Big East tournament, and it's just the building that the Knicks play in. Like that doesn't have nothing really to do. And my thing is, it's like these security people, they have a job, and especially now, it's like a pandemic. Like you can't just allow anybody to move around. Like the other day, like yesterday or the day before that, like Duke had to forfeit their spot in the ACC tournament because one of their players tested positive for COVID. Then another team and like another tournament, they had to forfeit their tournament because a player got COVID. So of course there's a lot of restrictions on who's allowed to be in the corridors, who's allowed to be in the locker room, stuff like that. So it's their job to ask for your pass. And I just thought they blew it out of proportion. And my thing is like I was just upset at like Patrick Ewing, especially because, unlike you and me, like he could just call Jim Dolan. I'm pretty sure he got Jim
Yeah.
Dolan at his phone. And he could just been like, "Yo," because that's what a lot of people saying. They're like, "Oh, like they're assuming that the security guard was like rude or whatever, whatever." And it's just like, well,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then do it in house and make it a private matter. Like it doesn't need this extra windstorm. It doesn't need this extra shit.
Shug, what did I tweet you or message you about it? I said MSG employee gets shit canned,
Hmm.
and then I said greater than, I mean less than Patrick Ewing has to look for his fucking pass.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me. This is a scenario. What if I was an MSG employee? I would do this. Oh man, I'm so yeah. I have to ask, man. I have to, whatever. So I don't know what happened exactly,
Yeah.
but I'd be like, hey, we have to.
But my thing is, it's like the situation, and then the situation last year with Spike Lee. But the Spike Lee situation was
Yeah,
like,
that was a year ago. That was a year ago already.
yeah,
Wow.
like
Yeah, I remember.
almost
Yeah,
to the day. And it's like Spike Lee was bitching and moaning because he couldn't go into an entrance that I guess at some point before last season or some point, to not to his knowledge, or it might have always been, but they decided to make it a little bit more stricter. It was an entrance for people with like disabilities, like you're talking about people with wheelchairs, people like having a hard time walking, stuff like that. And like everybody was like ignoring our shit and was like, not thinking like, oh, like Spike Lee's being insensitive, like, he wanted special preference. And then my thing is he went on ESPN the next day to bitch and moan about it. And I'm here thinking, I'm all like, all right, like you're a celebrity fan and you have seats like courtside, whatever, whatever. Like, what about the guy upstairs? You think the guy upstairs? And it's funny because Jim Dolan actually went and like talked to him like at halftime of the same game that this thing happened. And I'm like, the guy upstairs in the nosebleed and in the last seat that's been having season tickets from like 1960. Like he had season tickets from like the old Madison Square Garden, like back on like 8th and 9th Avenue. He was like he that guy, he can't call Jim Dolan whenever he's like inconvenient. So like that's my thing. And I was just astounded to see how many people was taking up like the side of like this Hall of Fame basketball player and like this movie director. And then the other part of me personally, I'm like, yo, like I'm from the Caribbean. Patrick Ewing, he's from the Caribbean too. And I'm like, yo, like I know your parents because I know my parents. My parents raised me to be humble. And if you're walking someplace, you know you got a job. You know they got a job. Like you gotta respect their occupation and you gotta respect them as people in the building. And then the other thing about it too is it's like not everybody's a Knicks fan. Like I'm pretty sure I used to grow up all the time with people that worked at Yankee Stadium, worked at Shea Stadium that didn't like baseball. And I'm thinking like when you're in an interview process, they probably ask you that shit. Like, do you like baseball? No. All right, cool. I'd prefer you working here because then I know you won't get distracted by the game and you'd be here to work. You know what I'm saying? So it's probably the same thing with those guys. I'm just like, these guys are on like an hourly salary, like $15 to $20. And I'm like, how are they the bad guy? And I mean, like, if it comes out that the person was rude, whatever, then he's possibly justified. But even then, so I'd still say it's something that you have literally the guy that owns the building, his number, you have access to him. You could have called him up and kept it in house instead of bringing this extra shitstorm to the Knicks, especially when the Knicks are like playing really, really well, and everybody, all these people can't acknowledge that and don't want to like recognize that the Knicks are doing well, so they're looking for a reason to put like a bad name on it.
Yeah, like you're showcasing needlessly something about the Knicks. It had nothing to do with the Knicks. It had to do with the place where they play.
Exactly, and it's like they're looking for a reason. Like they had Colin Coward, right? Today he was like, it's crazy that MSG security has a better defense than the Knicks, but the Knicks are fourth in the league in defense, and they were like number one in like overall defense, as in like points allowed as of yesterday. So it's like these people don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to the team, but they want to associate it with Jim Dolan and the Knicks, and they want something negative to pitter patter about because this is the most popular team in the biggest city, in the biggest market. And it's like whether they want to recognize it or not, it's the most valuable franchise. So it's like there's eyes always on us, and I just thought like that shit was weak.
Well, Patrick Ewing, let me just say, I feel for the worker. Even if like they didn't even know, because everyone's like, how the hell like the rafters or whatever. Well, it doesn't give a shit. It does not matter. So if I let Patrick Ewing in and Patrick Ewing tweeted like 2 minutes before, because I can't have my phone on me, I'm going to kill Jim Dolan now. And then he went into the fucking, I let him in, I'm accessory to murder. The same thing, something happened in when I was a doorman where someone who came in every day, they were, lovers came in every day. They had a spat. It was a famous person. They went in and then they came down crimson. Like Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes, a crimson. They're like, who let him in? Who let him in? And I was like, like this is protocol, pal. That's what I said to Suge. But you have to follow the rules. Yeah, I can't just like let you in. Same thing with Spike. Yes, you've been here for 30 years. You have had good for you, man. But we respect you. You get involved sometimes on the court. We'll let you in sometimes, but we need some security measures. I think more people need to follow the fucking rules. And I know that it's like, I don't know. I think people need to follow the rules.
At the end of the day, bro, at the end of the day, it's like it's Jim Dolan's building. Like I know a lot of people, they always make this shit about like, oh, like whenever like people in the stands, like they see Jim Dolan, like they'll yell shit at him, like sell the team, like you're the worst owner, blah 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 blah, and he kicks them out. He'll get security to kick him out, and then people like they're like, look at him, like he's such a baby, blah 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 blah. I'm like, bro, like he owns the building. Like, would you like if somebody walked in your house right now, Mike, and said, Mike, you're a piece of shit, you're terrible, you suck, blah 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 blah, like, would you allow that person to stay in your house?
Like,
Or
they
if
give
you
me money, and I'm like,
or
I'm mad. I'm mad. What about Charles Oakley? Let's talk about Charles Oakley. The final thing we can talk about Charles Oakley. He got tossed out, and that became a whole thing. That was a few years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if he was comped. I used to always see him. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And he got tossed out, and then it became a whole thing. But again, like we were saying, it's my house.
yeah,
I
like
have to have some policy. If I had a kid, I'd be like, hey, you can't leave after 10. You come home at 11. I gotta I don't know. That's a comparison if you want to.
if I went to a restaurant, I patroned a restaurant, and like the owner's like a dickhead, and like I walked up to and I told that owner like, yo, you're a fucking asshole, and he banned me from the restaurant, right? Like, are people gonna be like, oh, like he's a baby, blah blah blah? They're gonna be like, yo, you went to his restaurant and like openly disrespected him. Like, of course they don't want you in there. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what develops from it.